Welcome to FortinetLIVE, everyone. I'm Rob Rashotte, Vice President of Fortinet Training Institute and Global Field Enablement here at Fortinet. And today I have Tom Marsland joining me to discuss opportunities in cyber for veterans. Tom is the chairman of the board at VetSec, Inc., and he's also an advisory council member for the Fortinet Veterans Program. Good that you joined us today, Tom.
Hey, thank you so much for having me, Rob. Pleasure to be here.
So, as part of our combined mission to close the cybersecurity skills gap, you're obviously very familiar with the Fortinet Training Institute Veterans Program. But for those that are joining us today, the program is designed to help facilitate military service members, veterans, military spouses transitioning into the cybersecurity field. With Veterans Day having just passed, we want to take the opportunity to have a bit of a conversation to highlight our appreciation for the veterans community, and also to spotlight the role that veterans can play in helping to close the cybersecurity skills gap. We all know that's a pretty critical initiative. So to start into the conversation, Tom, maybe you could share a little bit more about your military experience, how you ended up at VetSec, and then a little bit about the organization as well and what VetSec does.
Absolutely. Thanks, Rob. Yeah, I joined the U.S. Navy back in August of 2001 and spent 22 years in the military. I retired just back in May of this year. I was in the Navy's nuclear power program working on submarines, and I had the fortunate happenstance to work in IT as kind of a collateral duty in a few places. I managed a help desk while I was in the military. I was the IT director for a small organization and helped with some governance, risk, and compliance roles on some of my shore duties. And through the time enlisted in the military, just became very interested in the cyber and IT field, kind of the mission mindset of defensive networks and defensive, those areas of critical infrastructure and things like that, especially working along the lines of nuclear power. And so as I was winding down my career in the Navy, back in the beginning of 2020, I started kind of researching and building a timeline for the things I needed to do to make my retirement successful and my transition to a civilian career. And I came across VetSec. VetSec's a 501c3 nonprofit. As of now, we've been running for about 5 years, all volunteer. My day job is the VP of technology for a company called Cloud Range Cyber, but in my volunteer time, I work here at VetSec. And the goal of the nonprofit, simply put, is to help veterans find meaningful employment in cybersecurity. We take a very community-based approach, facilitating mentorship within the group. The group today has about 6,600 members, all veterans who are either still working on their transition into the IT and cybersecurity field, or those who have already successfully transitioned, and they're giving back their time to mentor military members on things like resumes, interview tips, obviously the technical aspects of IT and cyber, and other kind of soft topics like your VA benefits. We provide some mental health resources and things like that. And we also work to partner with training providers like Fortinet and the Fortinet Training Institute to provide low and no cost training to our members and really kind of help them, I would say, filter out the noise of all the different training providers there are out there, point them in the direction of quality ones, and help them understand the industry and a path towards finding that role in cybersecurity.
Yeah, so your transition has been fairly recent, so everything's still fresh in your mind, I'm sure. It'd be great to hear a little bit about what you found as some of the most some of the biggest challenges in that transition from a military role into a civilian role. And then obviously within your volunteer time, what are you hearing from others as well in terms of what are they facing? There's obviously a lot of challenges, but what are the top challenges that you're hearing about and that you faced as well?
Absolutely. First, I wouldn't have the job that I have today without the community that I was able to locate within VetSec. Probably the biggest challenge that I faced was figuring out how to take the skill set that I learned in the military and translate that onto a resume. Having joined the military at the age of 17, and now being 40, I had never really interviewed for a job before, never really written a resume before. And here I am, 40 years old, transitioning out of the military, have a large family, and all the concerns that come with being a provider for the family and how to help them. Veterans, possess a lot of different skills that they can do and that can make them very successful in cybersecurity. But translating and navigating that job employment process can be really tricky. How to professionally network is probably the other biggest point that I hear from our membership. The network of LinkedIn and how to kind of broadcast yourself and talk about yourself a little bit more there. And finally, interviewing, which kind of goes back to my first point, that there are so many things that transitioning service members are doing in those last 6 months, from filing your VA disability claims, if you are, your military separation processing, moving, and just the fact of leaving that lifestyle that you've kind of grown up in behind and moving into this kind of new and scary world for a lot of people.
Yeah, so there's obviously a lot to consider, and it sounds like the transition starts well before you're actually moving into a new role. A lot of things to consider. Certainly, the thing that I probably hear a lot about more than anything else is just that that translating the skill sets. There's we talk all the time about the skills in terms of situational awareness and being able to understand critical incidents and so on. So there's a lot of transferable skills, and I think military veterans should not undersell themselves when they're really trying to articulate that in a resume. So looking at the cybersecurity field in general, as people are transitioning, what would you say is interesting about this field, and why should veterans look at this as an opportunity?
Oh, absolutely. Wonderful question. As I moved different places in the military, I never really had the same job twice. I was moving up in rank. I was, still in the same general field, but I was either in charge of more people or at a different command that had a slightly different mission, and I was doing things differently. But the underlying aspect of it was national security and defense of our country. In cybersecurity, just as military members work to defend their countries, they can also defend organizations, defend things like critical infrastructure. Like you said, they have that situational awareness, high level of attention to detail, and the ability to learn different skills relatively rapidly. We're never in more than, a single place for more than a few years, typically. A lot of experience working with cross-functional teams. Again, going back to that kind of mission-oriented mindset. And many people in the military, have very highly technical backgrounds and have that ability to skill up quickly. The thing I appreciate most about working at my day job at Cloud Range is that I'm really never doing the same thing twice. I'm constantly learning, and for my personality, that's something that I just enjoy doing every day, is learning a new skill. And in the cybersecurity industry, it is so rapidly evolving today that you have to be able to pick up those pieces and put them together and figure out how to stay one step ahead of the threat actors. So that's something I enjoy every day that I go to work.
Yeah, it's very true, and that's something that we often overlook, is that ability to learn quickly. And I think that is unique to where you've come from, that you're in a role for a short period of time and then you're learning again. I always say that if you do choose to come into the cybersecurity industry, you've chosen an area that mandates that it's going to be lifelong learning. Cybersecurity today is not the same at all as it was 10 years ago, and it won't be 10 years down the road. So having that innate lifelong learning as part of your fabric, I think, is key. So going back to VetSec again, can you give us a bit of an overview of the resources that are available through your organization, and maybe other resources in general that are available to people that are looking at transitioning?
Absolutely. For VetSec and how we run, community is the biggest resource that we have. Nowhere else, in my opinion, will you find a group of nearly 7,000 people who have walked in your shoes, have similar experiences from the military, understand the transition struggle, and really, above all, are willing to help. It was such a bridge for me leaving my Navy commands behind and the people that are on active duty, you know, they're still there for you, but once you walk out that door, it is different. And having the community as I move towards the civilian sector is a big resource that's provided. The other things, like I discussed previously, you know, the community we can dive into a little bit deeper. We provide things like resume help and interview tips and tricks and assistance. And really, in any of the channels, you can't ask a question without getting an answer back within 5 to 10 minutes on any of those topics. But the other big piece is we really work hard to kind of filter out the noise of the training providers out there that are working to some of them, unfortunately, are kind of monetizing the community with things like boot camps that are over-promising and under-delivering. And so for that reason, you know, we're so thankful to be just a member of the larger Fortinet community with the Training Institute, because the training is high quality and it provides a pathway for veterans to skill into a product line that has a very high market share across the globe, really. And along with the other trainings providers that we work with, places like the SANS Institute and others, you know, it's just a way that we can help kind of filter out that noise and provide a direction back to those veterans looking to transition.
Yeah, I really appreciate you, talking about the Fortinet training. It is something that, here we've really taken a stand to break down every barrier that we possibly can to make training available to everyone, not just veterans, but anyone that needs it. And we've made a commitment, to train 1 million people by 2026 in cybersecurity, and a lot of those folks are coming through organizations like yours. So really appreciate you mentioning that, and I also appreciate you taking the time to participate as one of our advisory members on our Veterans Council as well. Yeah, we can't do what we do without getting input from you guys. So really appreciate it. I also want to talk about this idea of community being so important that you mentioned. Certainly, I've been in cybersecurity most of my career, and I do get the sense that within cybersecurity, there's a pretty tight community as well. And I think that's for various reasons. I think cybersecurity vendors, even though on one hand, cybersecurity vendors are competitors, there's a tight-knit community there, because at the end of the day, the real competitor is the bad guy. And so we do have this pretty tight-knit community within cyber. And I think if you look at cyber, particularly in certain countries, there's a lot of veterans in this industry. So I think people would be, I think, quite pleased to see that transitioning into a role and coming into various companies in the cybersecurity industry. They're probably going to find a lot of people that have walked in their shoes and be able to find that community feeling again. When they're in cyber. So, Tom, I'd like to thank you for taking the time to share your insights today and your appreciation for you working with us. For those of you that are joining us today, don't forget to check out the Fortinet Training Institute page. It's on Fortinet.com. You'll find the Training Institute there. There's all kinds of resources on training, career development opportunities, links to our veterans program, and so on. So check it out. Again, go to Fortinet.com and look for the Training Institute. So thanks a lot, Tom, and thanks everyone for joining us.